There's a strategy that allows parents or grandparents to help their kids buy a home without giving them a huge pile of cash, without necessarily creating the same tax concerns people worry about. And in some cases, it can help them become homeowners with little to no money out of pocket. And surprisingly, a lot of families have never even heard of it. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how a gift of equity works, and more importantly, how to think about it strategically. We're going to cover what a gift of equity actually is, why it's not just for wealthy families, a real example with actual numbers, the mistakes families make when trying to help kids financially, and why this can be one of the smartest long-term wealth building moves families make. And I'll show you in a minute how one grandmother helped her grandson become a homeowner with essentially nothing out of pocket while instantly giving him equity in the property. Let me start with this. A lot of parents and grandparents want to help their kids financially, but they struggle with how to do it, how much to do, and whether helping them actually hurts them in the long term. And I understand the hesitation because nobody wants to create dependency. But here's my honest opinion. Helping your kids understand money, homeownership, and wealth building while also getting them started can completely change their financial future, especially in today's market where home prices are higher, savings take longer, and many younger buyers feel stuck before they even begin. And this is where the gift of equity becomes really interesting, because it's not just about helping someone buy a home, it's about helping them start building long-term wealth earlier. And if you're trying to figure out what a smart home buying plan looks like for your family, I've got a 90-day homeownership game plan in the description that walks you through this process step by step. Let's simplify this first. A gift of equity happens when a family member sells a property to another family member for less than the home's current market value. The difference between the value and the sales price becomes the gift. Let's say a home is worth $500,000. Parents sell it to their child for $450,000. That $50,000 difference becomes equity immediately. And here's where most people get this wrong. They think helping someone buy a home always means writing a huge check. Not necessarily. In this case, the equity itself is the gift. The equity can often be used towards the down payment, closing costs, or both, which dramatically lowers the cash needed to buy the home. A gift of equity allows families to transfer wealth through ownership, not just cash. This is probably the biggest misconception I hear. People assume a gift of equity is only for wealthy families. And honestly, that belief stops a lot of people from even exploring the option. Now, obviously owning a property helps, but this strategy isn't about being ultra wealthy. It's about using what you already have strategically. A lot of parents or grandparents may own a condo, a starter home, or an investment property with equity built up over time. And they may not realize that equity could potentially help their kids start building wealth years earlier than they otherwise could have. Because let's be honest, a lot of younger buyers today feel discouraged. They're looking at rising prices, high rent, student loans, and wondering how they'll ever save enough to get started. So when families understand this option, it can completely change the conversation. Gift of equity is less about being wealthy and more about understanding your options. If this is opening your eyes to strategies most people never hear about, go ahead and subscribe. My goal is to help people make smarter long-term financial decisions, not just get through a transaction. Let me give you a real example. I had a grandmother who sold her condo to her grandson, and instead of selling it at full market value, she gifted him 20% equity in the property. She also covered the closing costs with the gift of equity. Now her grandson became a homeowner, had essentially nothing out of pocket, and instantly had 28% equity in the home. Think about that for a second. Most buyers spend years trying to save for a down payment, saving for closing costs and avoid mortgage insurance. He started with equity immediately. And what I love about this situation was it wasn't just financial help. It was education. It was, here's how homeownership works. Here's how wealth gets built over time. This is the part that people don't talk about enough. Ownership changes the way people think financially. Helping someone buy a home can also teach them how to build wealth. Let's talk through a realistic example, because this is where things really start to click. Imagine, a home is worth $500,000. Parents sell it for $450,000. That creates a $50,000 gift of equity. Now let's say roughly $8,000 of that goes towards closing costs, leaving about $42,000 down payment, equity. That means the child became a homeowner, starts with over 8% equity, and potentially buys with little or no cash out of pocket. Here's how to think about this. Instead of spending years trying to catch up to the market, they're starting with a head start. And over time, appreciation, principal, paydown, and ownership itself can become part of their long-term wealth strategy. A gift of equity can accelerate homeownership and wealth building at the same time. This is where I think people get emotionally stuck. There's this belief that kids need to do it completely on their own. And I understand the thinking behind that. People want their kids to work hard, appreciate money, and learn responsibility. I agree with all of that. But helping your kids strategically, that doesn't automatically hurt them, especially when you combine financial education, responsibility, and ownership. Honestly, I think one of the biggest gaps in education today is understanding money, wealth building, and ownership. And if a family can bridge that gap, that can have a ripple effect for decades. Because the goal isn't just to help them buy a house. The goal is to help them build a stronger financial future. Strategic help paired with education can create long-term financial confidence, not dependency. And if your family's trying to figure out whether a gift of equity could work in their situation, this is exactly the kind of strategy I help people talk through every single day. If you're thinking about buying or refinancing and want clarity on your specific situation, I'd be happy to help. There's a link in the description where you can schedule a time and grab one of my free guides to get started. Let me leave you with this. A gift of equity is really about helping your kids start building long-term wealth, not about handing them everything, but by helping them start earlier, because homeownership creates opportunity, builds equity over time, and changes financial trajectories. And in a world where buying a home feels harder than ever for younger generations, families who understand strategies like this can create a massive advantage, not just financially, but generationally. So if you're a parent, grandparent, or someone trying to help family build a stronger financial future, don't assume your only option is handing over cash. There may be a smarter way to help. Get clarity on your options, understand how the numbers work, and think long term. If this helped you feel more confident about how a gift of equity works, make sure to subscribe. And if you want to keep learning, check out one of these next videos.